Hi, I'm Flo, the developer of Video Slave. Today I'd like to tell you a little bit about the new Video Slave 4 and talk a little bit about what you need to do to play back videos in sync with Pro Tools. What you can see here is the main window of Video Slave 4. We have a settings section at the top left. At the right we have a video display, so as we currently don't have any video in there, it just shows black and the timecode overlay, which can also be toggled on and off. And at the bottom we have our timeline. The timeline is the place where your video and audio tracks live, and where you also drag your assets to in order to play them back. So let's start by just dragging a movie in here. So now we just added the movie to the media bin of this project. And as you can see, it's still not playing back anywhere. So in order to play it back, we need to drag it down to the timeline. As you can see, Video Slave processes the waveform overview, so you can also, when you zoom in, we'll also see the waveform of the audio. And you can also play it back. So what we did was just adding the video to the timeline. So we just placed it somewhere where it probably doesn't belong. So as you can see on the top left, this video has a timecode burnt in, which tells us where it needs to be placed on the timeline. It's easy to see if I just click on it, so it shows the first frame of action. So this movie is supposed to start at 1 hour straight. And currently, this first frame is at 1 hour, 1 minute, 51 seconds, and 11 frames. In this case, we could just drag it to the far left because this timeline starts at 1 hour. But let's just assume this timeline, we need a bit more pre-roll here. So just assume this timeline starts at 59 minutes. So now if we wanted to drag the movie exactly to the 1 hour timecode mark where our first frame is supposed to be, we will have a bit of a hard time hitting that exact frame. So what we just do is double click the movie, and this is the Properties tab, and it shows properties of the currently selected region in this case. So when we just enter 1 hour here, it's now laid out correctly. So as you can see, the timecodes now match. Okay, so far everything just works in standalone playback, but of course Video Slave is a synchronized video player. So let's bring up Pro Tools. I have a Pro Tools session here. It's just a test session. And as you can see, when I click around in the timeline, nothing happens. Also, when I play back, nothing happens with Video Slave. That's actually understandable because we didn't configure Pro Tools or Video Slave in any way. So let's start with Video Slave. When you bring up the preferences, you can see that Video Slave expects MIDI timecode from a virtual input, which it creates itself, which all applications on the same machine can attach to. So this is MIDI timecode in and MIDI machine control in. We actually don't just need those two. And for Pro Tools, which is a bit special, we need this Huey in if we want to loop playback as well. But actually, so for other DAWs like Cubase or Logic, for example, you only need to connect those two. So if you had like a hardware MIDI interface or something, you could just select that here, and Video Slave will then read the MIDI timecode from that. In our case, we want to use those virtual inputs because it makes the most sense when you use Video Slave on the same machine also running your DAW. So we need to tell Pro Tools to send its MIDI timecode and MIDI machine control information to these two virtual ports. We open the peripherals panel and we start with the synchronization tab. This is, by the way, all discussed in the knowledge base on our website, so make sure to check that out. There are several articles about setting up MIDI timecode and MIDI machine control with your digital audio workstation. So for the MIDI timecode, we set the MIDI timecode in. For MIDI machine control, we set the MIDI machine control in. And we also set up the Huey ports. It's enough to set up one bank here, just to make sure that everything is connected and working properly. Okay, so now, as you can see, we play back and we scrub and still nothing happens. But we're almost there. You need to tell Video Slave that it's supposed to listen to the incoming timecode. So if we now hit this button, everything follows magically. Okay, so that's actually all you need to know to play back videos in sync with Pro Tools and Video Slave 4. Make sure to check out our website and especially the knowledge base for articles on how to set up Video Slave with your DAW, network MIDI setup, and other related topics.